I got it right here. Oh, Cynthia, if you could, there you go. I'm gonna hand it to you. Okay. Right, we got this up there, and we'll get that out. Are you kidding me? Oh my!
But I have it on.
Where do you have it?
Somebody took it out of the folder.
Yeah,
Oh my! I just drove.
throw it away.
Oh, wait a minute! Wait a minute! Poof! Here it is. All right. Wah, wah, wah.
You're terrible.
Isn't that funny? I thought that'd be funny.
No, it wasn't funny.
I thought it was funny. It was funny. It was underneath my shirt the whole time.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about it.
All right, guys. Here we go. We're recording. Go ahead, Cindy. You're on the spotlight. I'm gonna put the flashlight on you too.
And action. I gotta find the country stuff.
That's all right. Just go start at the beginning. It doesn't take that long. Just flash it. So, this is the memory of Al Schroeder. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm glad everybody could come. First of all, I'd like to thank Karen for giving me the opportunity to speak about our dear friend and relative, Al Schroeder. I'm going to say a few short stories about Al. Some of them you may know, some of them you may not. I wrote them down because I don't want to miss anything. So what becomes of our broken hearts? Al returned home to heaven on Sunday, January 26th, to the place where it all began. And I urge us all today to dry our tears, suspend our sorrow, and perhaps our anger. Just long enough to remember the sweet miracle of Al, while never forgetting Karen, Jeremy, and Victor sit among us. Believe it or not, Al and I had a lot in common. I know some of you are thinking, really? He's a guy, I'm a girl, he does construction, car repairs, and worked in IT. He blew me away with his technical intelligence and skills. I worked as an admin assistant and was a realtor. I think you would agree those two are big differences. Well, we both grew up in a church and had a deep faith in God. Al was very active in church. He handled the audio-visual production work for each entire service. He was devoted to that. We had what I call a large family on my dad's side. There were 3 aunts, 3 uncles, and a ton of cousins. Every aunt and uncle had a separate cabin on the Merrimack River, but close to each other. Al's parents and my parents shared a cabin. At night, every member of the family would come to our cabin and play games in our large screened-in porch. We all looked forward to that every night. Another highlight was when my brother Lloyd, Al's brother Paul Sr., and our cousins Carl and Roy would play guitars in the living room with everyone gathered around. We would all sing our hearts out, wouldn't we? Al handed me 2 spoons to slap them on our knees, joined in on the music and played our spoons. He was so fun. I think the fondest memory was the time when our cousin Carl brought some of the college friends to the cabin. Everyone joined together and played their instruments. One guy even played his banjo and another one played the fiddle. Our cabin rocked that night. I'm sure the neighbors down the hill could hear. Our families got together often. Our cousins were much older than us. So when the older cousins would get together, they'd go off and do their cool stuff. They didn't want us around. So Al and I were left behind. This is where Al and I formed our bond. Looking back at it, we never seemed to mind because that was our time to do our cool stuff. We actually had a great time together. Whatever he didn't think of, I would think of. We were limited on what we could do because our moms wouldn't let us go out of the yard. We were really young. So while our moms were working around the cabin, Al and I would go on what we called adventures. We would go off into the safe part of the woods behind our house and create our adventures. We would pretend we were spies looking for treasures. We became quite creative with our spy adventures. We really loved it. There was a tire swing in the front yard which we would both take turns swinging on. We would sing songs that we made up on our own, until one day a swarm of bees came out of the tire and stung us both. We never played there again. One time I actually talked him into playing Barbies with me. He was like, no. I told him he was Ken and I was Barbie. He did not like that game at all. He made me swear I would never tell anybody about that. And I never did. Well, until now. I tell that story to give you an example of Al's caring personality. He wanted me to have fun too. He at least tried for me. The biggest thing I remember about Al is how kind he was. I loved to play games with him. I'm sure he felt the same way. We always had a big smile when we saw each other. We developed a special bond that never was broken throughout the years. We were always the youngest and seemed to always be in the way. So we spent a lot of time together throughout life. Our entire family went to our family's cabin almost every weekend. We even spent a month at a time there in the summer. As Al and I got a little older, we were allowed to walk down the hill and visit our aunts and uncles. First, we would visit Judy and Braxton's cabin and see what they were up to. Braxton was always building something. Al would actually help Braxton with his building projects. When we were done hanging out there, we would walk right over to Aunt Claire and Uncle Roger's cabin and visit them. Aunt Claire always had a treat for us. Our cousin Carl had graduated from college and he came to the cabin also. He decided to build us a playhouse. We were so excited. Al and I started eating all our meals in there, which is why a bug was found. Anyway, Carl left an open door in the playhouse, so we would pretend we were movie stars and would make up dialogues and sing songs. We would laugh so hard at what the other person would come up with. Playing in the playhouse ended one day sharply when a huge bug walked across the floor and we both freaked out. It was huge. The highlight of our lives were when our moms would finish doing things around the cabin. They would call us up to the cabin and told us to get our swimsuits on because we were going swimming in the river. Al's mom, my Aunt Eldred, would walk us one by one to the other side of the river to a small beach that was there. We would spend the entire day there with our inner tubes and playing in the sand. As we got older, we would all get together and go on float trips. That was the best. Our time at the cabin was literally incredible. As we got a little older still, Al learned how to fish and he went fishing all the time. Sometimes I would go and keep him company. Another thing Al learned how to do was boating. He loved to go out on his boat and fish. I always envied him for that. That was probably the time we started separating our playtime from each other. He would go fishing on his boat and be gone for long times. I would fish in the river, which I loved. Al was such a quick learner when Judy and Braxton taught us how to ski. He learned right away. It took me many times. Once we were out of high school, we still cared deeply about one another. We both got married. We watched each other's lives from the sideline. It was at this time I became great friends with Al's wife, Karen. We get along well. Karen also is a very kind person. Al was a devoted husband and father. Shortly after we both got married, both Al and I had 2 children each. He was kind. He was such a kind father and spent so much time with his boys. He actually devoted time with them and taught them things they would need to know in life. He was a great dad. I asked Al to be with God. I asked Al to be the godfather to my youngest daughter. He accepted with such a loving reply saying, I would be honored, and his dad was my godfather. Al was a great friend. Al had a very athletic brother, older brother. He always felt inferior to his brother. He always said he didn't feel good enough. I would give him trouble feeling that way. He would always wonder, am I good enough? Am I good looking enough? And will people like me? Al, if you could hear me now, you would hear you weren't just good enough. You were great. And people didn't just like you, Al, they loved you. Now you're gone too soon, leaving us with memories we will have for a lifetime. And so, to you, Karen, Jeremy, and Victor, and everyone sitting here today, I am confident that Al is in heaven, facing God, making God himself wonder how he created something so perfect. So off you go, Al, off you go, escorted by an army of angels to our Heavenly Father. When you go before God, don't you worry, Al, you will be good enough. Goodbye, our dear friend, we will always love you. Thanks. That's so nice.
Yeah, it got me again.
All right, thanks everybody. Giddy up.